Baruch him. You may be seated in his presence. As we go into the writings, we're going to do, normally I follow the Torah portions, but to y'all, we're going to do something a little different. I feel compelled by the Ruach. Let us turn our attention to Matit Yahu chapter 9. When you have it saying it is so. All right. Give me a few more minutes. I'll give you a few more minutes. Once again, Matit Yahu chapter 9. All right. Matit Yahu chapter 9. As we were in praise and worship and just began to just seek the Abba through my praise and through my worship, this was something that had been put in my Ruach some yamim ago. And I began to think about the woman with the issue of blood and how as a people, I said it once and I'll say it again, I'm not a problematic teacher or preacher. But there is a time when there are certain things that must be addressed when it comes to us as a people and wondering where we are and why are we in the state and the condition we are in. And so it is important that we find out, I said, and I will say once again, it is important that we have a relationship and we not do like so many people do. We come along, but when it comes to really getting in and covenant, having that covenant with the Abba, it's not there. We have so many that are onlookers, sideliners, and they just come in because, it's a way out from every other place. But when it comes to commitment and truly a way of life, it's not there. Right. So we see them from the first day all the way to the Sabbath. And you see their posts, you see what they're doing. We were riding yesterday and we listened to all styles of music. But on yesterday, y'all, I just in my Ruach, I was saying we don't have any worship music. We need some worship music. There's a time that your Ruach should be bathed in. It should be immersed in. It should be covenant with worship to the Abba. And it ought to be a time that we worship him and we go in hard for him. And like I say, I don't discriminate if with listening to music, but there comes a time when your Ruach got to cry out for something that's talking about the Abba. That's showing us how to praise him. That's showing us how to cry out to him. That's showing us how to ahab him. And as we rode and we took care of business and my heart, I was like, we had more stuff to listen to. Now, mind you, we do have U3 and they are the greatest group when it comes to worship, in my opinion, and I'm entitled to my opinion, though I am their manager. I might be biased if I am, that they're my group. But it's, when you begin to look at the cry, there has to be a cry. If there is no cry, when a baby cries, that gets the attention of the parents, the Ima and the Papa. If let that baby cry, you bumping heads trying to get to him or her because you understand there's a what? There's something wrong. Even if it's nothing, drastic, it just, I need your attention. I need your attention right now, Ima, Papa. I just need your attention. I'm not hurting. I just want to know that you know that I'm here. I need you to know that I'm here, that I'm in the mix, and that I am sincere, and I know that you're here, and I know that you're there, and I know that you play a great part in my life. And this is what is important. And the reason I say that is because I frequent on my Facebook page. I don't do a lot of posting. I mean, I post most of the things I post on my teachings. But when you get on there and you see the same thing over and 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 over, to where it becomes so systematic that you start thinking, what is new? Because it's the same thing. And then we talk about Christianity and we say all they do, fast, pray, and march and repeat. But we do the same thing. We post, we live our lives from the first day all the way to the Sabbath. And in between that time, the question is asked, how many hours do we spend in prayer? Do we fast throughout that yamim? Do we really put the effort to seek him and to cry out to him to let him know, hey, I'm still here. I know you can see me, but I want you to know I'm still connected. I have not disconnected my relationship with you. Have we made that cry? Have we sincerely cried out to him? Some of the posts that I see can be very disturbing. And I'm saying to myself, are you truly walking in this because you want relationship, or are you doing it because it's a fad? It's just something that you want to do right now. But when it comes down to it, there was truly no depth of change. There was really, I'm just in it, I'm just Hebrew. And that's it. Because of the posts and because of the things we do, I'm looking and I'm questioning, how does the world view us? But better than that, how does the Abba view us? Are we those that he can set up and say, hey, I want you to be a mouthpiece for me before this dignitary. I want you to go and speak on behalf of my people in this place. Are we in a position to do that? If we can't speak to one another and deal with one another and help one another through the hard times and trials, how can we share anything with anybody else? Right. And you wonder why. What is going on with us as a people? We're going to look at what's going on. Why? Because we ought to be a little further than what we are now. Right. But it is something about when you bleed. Blood is life. And when there is the absence of blood, there is no life. And so we're going to look in Matthew chapter 9, and we're going to look at the woman. This woman represents Yasharon. Contrary to popular belief, I know a lot of brothers, think it's a man's world, but it is not. It is our world. God. Not just the man's world. It is our world. O-U-R, our world. Because without each other, we cannot function. Even though they're doing some diabolical, nasty things that are an abomination in the eyes and in the nostrils of Abba Yahuwah, we as a unit, female, male, female, as a unit, we are needed. We cannot function without one another. That's right. You never see people trying to get power and plugging up two electrical cords together. Because that's not the source. Mm-hmm. But when you take the power cord and stick it into the wall, that's when the currency and the energy and the electricity flows. But there can be no connect. If there's no connection, then there's no flow. Right. And we've got to connect with the Abba, and not just what may seem like we're connected, but we really have to connect so that we can hear when he speaks to us, when he unctions us to do a thing. He will unction you to fast. He will unction you to get off of Facebook. He will unction you to get off of Instagram. Right. Through the Ruach HaKodesh. He will unction us to study in a certain area that may at the time be unfamiliar, but it's a reason why he has us there. And we've got to be able to move when he says move. Right. Here is a woman, as we look at her life, now you have to understand Yahushua's on his way to minister to someone else. But she catches his attention because she does something that, according to history, she is not supposed to do. According to the law of man, she was not supposed to do. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Now we're going to start at verse. Let's go up here. Let's look at this. This is important too. Let's start at verse 16. Let's start at verse 16 and let's read 8 verses.
No man puts a patch of unshrinking cloth to an old garment, for the patch will pull away from the garment, and the tear is made worse. Neither do men put new wine into old bottles, else the bottles break, and the wine runs out, and the bottles perish. But they put new wine into new bottles, and both are preserved. While he spoke these things to them, behold, there came a certain ruler, and bowed to pay homage to him, saying, My daughter is now dead, but come and lay your hand upon her, and she shall live. And Yahushua rose and followed him, and so did his disciples. And behold, a woman who had an illness with a flow of menstrual blood 12 years came behind him, and touched the tzitzit on the corner of his garments. For she said within herself, If I will touch his tzitzit, I shall be cured. But Yahushua turned around, and when he saw her, he said, Daughter, be of good courage. Your faith has cured you. And the woman was cured from that very hour. And when Yahushua came into the ruler's bait, he saw the flute players and the people making a noise. And it is so.
And it is so. All right. No man puts a patch of unshrinking cloth to an old garment, for the patch will pull away from the garment, and the tear is made worse. Now you have to understand the analogy here. He said unshrinking cloth, meaning that cloth is not going to give way. It's just going to stay right there. He says, for it will pull away from the garment and tear, and the tear is made worse. Neither do men put new wine into old bottles. Now you have to understand, back in that day, when you look at a wine skin, I'm thinking something like this. They would clean out a whole goat and take that body, let it dry out, and they would put wine in it and tie the neck and all the rest of it up. And you had a wine bottle this large. Yes, because of the size of the goat. Now, you have to understand, in our town, we think a little wine skin, but you have to understand, when Abba Yahuwah does a thing, he does a thing in a great way. So you have to understand the reference here when he is talking to them. He says, now you don't put new wine into old bottles. He said, else the bottles break and the wine runs out and the bottles perish, but they put new wine into new bottles and both are preserved. The vessel and that what is going to be given is preserved. The one thing about this right here with us as a people, it's new to us because we were not walking in it. But it is not new to the Abba. And you have to understand, he is giving them an analogy about themselves. You got to change your heart and you got to change your perspective when it comes down to receiving the things of the Abba. You can't go in with the mindset that you once walked in before you came into truth. Right. You can't walk in with the mindset of Christianity. You can't even walk with the mindset when you were out there in the world on them streets, saying it's me, myself, and I. You have to understand it is not about us as individuals, but it is about us as a unit. So it's important that we understand. Now listen what he says. They both will be broken. Now let me show you what that means. The Torah cannot be taken away, and neither did the renewed covenant come to take away that which was given before. Both covenants are here to stay. Meaning the first covenant, which was through the sacrificing of animals, and the covenant, that extension or the renewed covenant, under better conditions. But we have both covenants hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And the problem comes in, once again, is where you have people with a mindset, because they have received ill or wrong information, and they have made it up in their minds, no matter who tells me what, I am closed off. I am not going to receive anything else. If we were like that, we would have never come into truth. So we don't want to be people ever learning and never coming into the truth. So he is establishing, watch this, a platform for those that are around him to listen. To listen and to be able to hear what's taking place. Because the one thing about us as a people, it is a known fact, we are a hard-headed people. We are a stubborn people. We are. We won't listen. We won't listen to reason, many of us. When it comes down to truth, we won't even seek the Bible to see if it's so. We'll just automatically shut it down and say no, because I know that's not right. Really? Well, remember, we were not born, many of us were not born into truth. We were awakened into truth. And so it's important that we understand that. Now let's finish. Let's look at what he was saying. Now in verse 18, while he spoke these things to them, behold, there came a certain ruler and bowed to pay homage to him, saying, my daughter is now dead, but come and lay your hand upon her, and she shall live. Now, once again, verse 18, very important to us as the children of Yasharal. Here it is, a man says, I know she's dead. There is no hope for her, but the hope is in you. I need you to come, though she's dead, and lay your hands on her, because you have to understand, when you have belief in the Mashiach, there is no situation and no circumstance too hard for him.
That's right.
He said, I just need you to come. He said, and come and lay your hand upon her, and she shall live. She shall live. And Yahushua arose and followed him, and so did his disciples, because of his belief. If you want to get his attention, you got to do something that merits his attention. We were listening to some we were listening to Kurt Franklin Stomp. And you know there's a rap part in there where I think it is Salt, where she comes in, it's Salt or Pepper, where she comes in with the rap and she said, come on, you got to make him feel something, make him jump. You got to understand something. You have to be able to have that compassion and have that zeal, that desire to make the Abba feel that you are sincere. Somebody say, but how do you do that? By being sincere. Are you following me?
Yes.
By being sincere and not just having a form of uprightness, but truly desiring and doing this from the depths and the bottom of your heart to the tip top of your heart. Now, once again, he's setting and he's establishing the platform because he's dealing with his people, our people, and he's dealing with a people that are outside of this. And you have to understand, we have many people that are not Ibram, but they know how to get the Abba's attention because they have made up their minds they're going to be sincere. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Now, in his rising to follow him with his disciples, and behold, a woman who had an illness with the flow of menstrual blood 12 years came behind him and touched the seats on the corner of his garments. Now you have to understand, to have a menstrual flow for 12 years, it was just the mercy of the Abba that let her live, because to flow like that for 12 years, she could have become anemic and died immediately. You can die in 2 to 3 days with that much of blood flowing. Are you following me? Because when blood flows and there is nothing to replenish it, and it's a constant flow, that means there is nothing stopping it. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
But she had to believe because she heard what? The testimony. She heard the testimony. She received the witness of the Abba that this was the son. Are y'all following me? Yes. Remember, Yehukin in chapter 5. Yehukin and Aleph, chapter 5, 1 all the way to 15. Because she received the witness of the Abba, knowing that the witness of the Abba was greater than the witness of men, she took a chance to reach out and touch him. And see, while she was bleeding, she was not supposed to be around. She's supposed to really just say she was unclean. Are you following me? Yes. But watch this. Those were legal rules made by men. Because if it would have been made by the Abba, she would have died when she touched him. Are y'all following me? Stick with me now. She would have died. Now, once again, 12 years. When you look at the number 12, 12 represented the 12 tribes of Yasharal. Also, 12 represents government and also new beginning. Here it is, the government or the establishment of Yasharal would be on the shoulders of Yahushua HaMashiach. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Now, let me show you this, and we're going to look at another verse in here that's in Malachi, 4 and 2. 12 tribes who were in uncleanness, just like the blood coming out of this woman. And the master Yahush came to heal them. She pulled on his tzitzis because of the prophecy of Malachi 4 and 2. Let's go to Malachi and let's look at Malachi 4 and 2. Let's look at Malachi 4 and 2.
And it is so.
All right, read that for me.
Malachi chapter 4, verse 2. From the NIV. But for you who revere my name, the Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in its wings, and you will go out and leap like calves released from the stall. Verse 3.
Yeah, let's read 3 too.
Then you will trample down the wicked. There will be ashes under the soles of your feet on the day when I do these things, says Yahuwah of power.
Now, very important for us to understand this prophecy. She knew to touch him. Why? Because you can't make me believe that she wasn't a reader. She was a reader, so she understood. He fit the description. There was nothing within her that said not to. But everything pushed her towards touching him. As a people, we are bleeding. Not just individually, but as a nation, we are bleeding. And watch this. The blood is not coagulating, and we're not being added to. It's a constant flow. Somebody would say, well, how do you equate that? Look at the killings. Instead of us praying and fasting, what do? We post it. What is posting up somebody getting murdered going to do but make people angry and cause tempers to rise? Why not fast and pray? We already know it's news. Deuteronomy chapter 28 already tells us these things are going to be so. But when you post it and you put it in communities and you say, y'all, this is a shame. No, what's the true shame is what are we doing? Are we fasting and praying? Are we crying out that this thing will stop and that our people will catch a hold of what's going on and that we will reach out to the Mashiach for healing? Because me seeing somebody get shot, me seeing somebody getting maimed, me seeing the police do these things to a person, that doesn't help me. That just angers me. So in our time of fasting and in our time of praying, my mind and my heart is saying, Abba Yahuwah, we need your help. Don't make me callous towards these things. I don't want to become callous towards my people. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Because you have to understand, there was a lot of things that were going on. Many distractions were taken, what was going on at that time. She could have been easily distracted, but she stayed focused on the redemption. We focus too much on the problem instead of focusing on the remedy and that which will bring healing. Right. It's a ploy. Don't you know they know every time that happens that we're going to post it up? Because what they want us to do is act out of character. Right. And instead of going before the Abba praying and rending our hearts, not our clothes, but our hearts before the Abba and saying, Abba, we need you. Now understand when I say that, I'm talking about as a collective. Because yes, I believe that those of us, because I pray, I walk the floors and talk to the Abba, just like I'm talking to you. And there are times when my only thing that I can say is through my tears, because sometimes there's hard, it becomes difficult to formulate my words. Because sometimes my heart is so overwhelmed at some of the stuff that I look at. I'm like, how can we say we are Ibram and we do these things? How can we truly say we are the people of the wise, omnipotent, omniscient power when we act reckless and foolish with our words and with our time? Now understand, I have nothing against people posting, but I have a problem when you just posting stuff that is going to constantly cause problems. Right. You got people posting stuff. I bet $600 or $60 that every woman on here has false eyelashes. I'll give $60 to the woman, to any woman that doesn't wear makeup every day, and they have Yahshua or Israel on the back of their name. You're foolish and you're wasting your time and mine. That's why I went and started unfriending. I don't need you on here because you're just another number. You're not edifying. When I go on, I want to see something edifying. I want to see something that's going to make me think and that's going to provoke me to stay in this walk. Not that I need anything to provoke me because I'm trying to get out, but you don't want it. You go into a grocery store and ain't no food in there, ain't no nice, ripe, nice fruit, you're going to walk out of there. You don't want to see no spoiled fruit. You don't go in there. The pineapple all damaged, the tomatoes all bruised, then flies all over the place. You don't want that. You're going to be like, nah, I had to go. No. And we're trying to win our people. We can't win our people with stuff like that. Oh, wait. Until Yahshua gets tired, and I mean get tired as a people, we're going to continue to fight this fight. I don't know about you, but I don't want to see any more of those things. I don't want to see another pregnant woman die. But you have to understand something. If we don't turn and we don't provoke our people to turn, you got to give us something to want to turn for. And they can't see it if we're posting foolishly and foolishness. We're taking, watch this, a whole yamim or a whole week with nothing but foolishness. Then we come on the Sabbath and say, now it's time for me to rest. From what? What did you do? Not saying that you're not supposed to rest, but I am saying, what is it that you've done throughout the week? Besides being antagonistic, causing arguments, stirring up strife, stirring up disbelief. It's time that we repent, Yahshua, and get it right. Because we have everything we need to live right and be made completely whole. We just have to step into that place. Because we have the remedy, the Mashiach, Yahushua Mashiach, he is the remedy. And you see all this stuff, posting this, posting that, and they wait. It's like they just wait. They wait for the reaction. It's like you can see them like buzzards waiting for the prey to die. Waiting, they just can't wait for that first negative reaction. Because that's what they're praying and that's what they're hoping for. Just let somebody be negative. Let somebody come on. Let it be 300. But in that 300, it's all about arguing and bickering. It just, there was one post I saw. And I smiled and I began to give the Abba thanks. It was a mature one. When I say mature, she was older. And she was speaking to a younger Cody. And they were talking about the laws and talking about abortion. And there was a miscommunication or misunderstanding in the post. And so the sister was talking to her. The older sister was talking to the younger sister. And she was telling her, and so she came back. She said, no, she said, you're misunderstanding me. She said, no, I'm not saying no, that, she said, no, what I'm saying is that we need to understand what they're trying to do, especially with all these abortion laws going on. You have to understand there's some stuff going on and we better be awake to what's taking place. And she was saying to her, you know, back in my day, the issue was whether or not you were qualified to keep the child or if you want to keep it. And so they went backwards and forth. But at the end of the conversation, what was so yapa was that they were able to resolve this and it didn't go and blow up into something that it didn't even need to blow up into. She said, well, if I misunderstood you, watch this. I'm sorry. One of the things you rarely hear on the social media. I am SORRY. I'm sorry. I misunderstood your post and your comment. No, what we do is flap, 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 flap. Squiggly line, squiggly line, squiggly line, squiggly line. And we are belligerent and we're all out of context and we're all out of character. No respect for elders, no respect for anybody. And we say that we're Yahshua, we're bleeding. We're bleeding. And it's not, and you have to understand, when it said for 12 years, that meant every day she woke up, she had to see menstrual blood. Every yamim of her life for 12 years. She had to see bleeding. She had to see that. Do you not know how, if you are a woman, young lady, how that can be so, how fear could grip your heart if you let it? Because any day you're thinking, I could die for anemia, for being anemic. I can go to I can go into what is it? Anemic shock. I could die. But she held on because she believed. And because she would be a witness and she would be a testimony of what we as a people can do and be. See, when we were in Christianity, we use the issue to be everything else. But you have to understand the issue of blood represented the children of Yahshua, all 12 tribes bleeding. We're all bleeding. And unless we touch the Mashiach, that bleeding will not stop. Right. And one thing about us bleeding is it becomes contagious. Because when we're bleeding, we want other people to bleed too. If it's not with our words, then it becomes with our posts. You have to understand, people post how they feel. And that's a dangerous place. Because if you get out there and drive how you feel, you could kill somebody. Being what? Reckless. Right. Being reckless. There are times that I believe that when we are in our feelings and we are in that emotional place in our lives, you do not need to be on social media. And I'm not just talking about women. I'm talking about men too, because men can be emotional too. Yes. And especially if they have been in bad relationships, every woman now becomes a whore or becomes something that's diabolical. They heap all women in that category. And then when you go to them and say, hey, you need to tone that down. Now you become the enemy because you be like, hey, I'm just coming to you as a sister. I'm trying to help you here. You need to tone that down. You got issues. You need to go and pray about that. Don't heap everybody in that category. Because we're not all that. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And then you have the sisters do the same thing. Their coaches do the same thing. They'll have a situation with a brother and they'll post it up and watch it. All they're waiting for is somebody to take the bait. And now we have all kind of stuff going on. We're bleeding as a people. We are bleeding. And if we don't reach out to the Mashiach and touch him, we're going to continue to bleed. Now you have to understand, if she had not touched him when she did, she would have died. She would have died. We've carried a lot of things for a long time, but why die when we can live? Right. When the answer and the remedy is right here in front of us. Why die when we can live? I'm not dying for anybody. It's better for me to live. Are you hearing me? Because when you are alive, you are a witness to his greatness and to his power. This is what it said in verse 22. But Yahush turned around, and when he saw her, he said, daughter, be of great courage. Your belief has cured you. And the woman was cured from that very hour. The reason he had to encourage her and address her as a daughter, because she was a daughter of Yasharal. He didn't say woman, he addressed her because she was a daughter. Just like we are. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Now you have to understand, he used a daughter to represent the condition of Yasharal as a whole. You may not like me for saying this, but it is what it is. He used a woman to represent the condition of all 12 tribes. Yes, he did. Now you have to understand, when you begin to look at that, bleeding, but then comes the healing. Anybody understand menstrual flow? And I'm not trying to be gross, but if you don't clean yourself, it'll stink. Because dead blood stinks. Are you following me? Yeah. It's not dead in you. It's still alive. It does not die until it comes out. Because nothing dead can stay in us. Are you following me? Yes. But you have to understand something. The trail that you leave when you're bleeding. When you're bleeding. But because she said, no, I'm going to touch him. I'm going to touch him. I'm going to touch him. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
I shall be cured. That is the number one statement and confession that we as Yahshua must proclaim every yom of our lives. For she said within herself, if I will touch his seats, I shall be cured. If we just can touch the Mashiach, we will be cured. If we can get past all these idiosyncrasies and all the rest of this foolishness and touch him, we shall be cured as a people.
Right.
We can't be cured until we get past that. We become a law unto ourselves. We become our own law. We become our own jurisdiction and judge and jury. We become all of that. And this is why when you intervene and you're dealing with people, people can become so malicious and think, oh, it's not your fight. It's not my fight, but it is my business.
That's right.
Because when you're talking about an Ak or an Akodi, that's my mishpachah. So if you're out of line, it is for me to tell you, you're out of line. I don't care if you're a man or a woman.
Right.
But now people have things so genderized that if you say something to a Ak, then his issue comes in and then starts calling you out of your name. I said, I won't get in the mud with you, sis. I won't. Because number one, you have to understand I'm more mature than you are. And then people are watching. People are watching. And above all, Yahuwah is watching. So I'm not going to get in the mud with you. But what you did and what your ish did was wrong. You do not address an elder in any manner, in any kind of form. You're not supposed to do that. If you have a disagreement, disagree and walk away. But to start fussing and cursing people out or using profanity, you're out of order. We don't know how to bite our tongues. We don't know how to walk away and say, you know what? Touche. I'll count that one as a win-loss. I win because I walk away knowing that I held my peace. I lose because you might say you got the upper hand because you won this, that, and the other. And that's fine. But we are so engulfed in pride, and we're so engulfed in everything else that when it comes to letting things go, we won't let it go. Because we done made up in our mind, I ain't letting that go. I ain't going to look like no punk on here. I ain't going to look like no wuss on here. They ain't going to tell me I look like this. But what about what Yahuwah is looking at and how he's looking at us? I said, no. I said, I'm not going to follow up on this. I got the best thing for you, block. Because I don't have to fight with you because I'm not going to. And I'm not going to let you disrespect me. Are you following me? Yeah. So you have to walk away from those things. And if the Abba says do differently, then you do. But there's some things we need to really walk away from. Why? Because the main thing in our walk every yom is to be, I shall be cured. Emotionally, physically, above all, spiritually, economically, socially. Until we get those things resolved, we're bleeding. We're bleeding. We are bleeding. And if we don't hurry up and accept the Mashiach, who is not a Band-Aid, but he's that salve that comes in and causes the skin to close so that we can truly stop bleeding and then bleeding all over one another, it's time for us to begin to mature and walk in truth. And stop this bickering and fussing. And he turns to her because of her active belief and because of her courage to go against what other people looked at as being abnormal. You can't touch him. You got all these people out here telling women, you can't touch the Mashiach. You need a man. No, you don't. You better have the Ruach. Because if he's not walking in truth, then what are you going to do? Because when you stand and when I stand before the Abba, guess what he's going to say? I told you to live this life. You have to live it on your own. Are you hearing me? Even in the garden, you see that they all were judged based upon their actions. So when you stand before the Abba, you're going to be judged based upon what you do or not do. You can't stand up there and say, well, they didn't do it, so I know he's going to look at you and say, but I gave you an opportunity to serve me. So it's important that we understand and not let these things go on. Now listen what he says. Once again, he says unto her, daughter, be of great courage. Your belief has cured you. And the woman was cured from that very hour. If we want immediate healing, we've got to touch him. Right. You can't just do anything and think that it's not, and think, okay, whatever I do is okay. Now listen what it says. She knew the Mashiach was here and he would heal her. Do we really know that the Mashiach is available for our healing? Do we really know and believe with all of our hearts that the Mashiach is here for our healing and our deliverance? Or are we just going through the motions like so many other people are? So many people are finding themselves, well,